Welcome back. We're going to continue the series about having difficult conversations, and today we'll talk about being careful about rushing in to fix things for your kids. This is hard because as parents and caregivers, a lot of times you'll see a kid struggling and you just want to get in there and help them get it right. You want them to feel good and feel confident and like they know what they're doing. But actually the opposite can end up being true. When kids are able to struggle through things and figure it out for themselves, their self-esteem can really boost. Their self-confidence really grow as a result of that. So when I think of this, there are so many times that I've seen kids not really be sure, how to get out of a situation that they're stuck in. And there's so many different situations. One time I remember I was with a child who was trying to play a game where they were going to smack two cars together. And I knew this would break the cars. And normally in play therapy, we just set a limit and say nothing in here is for breaking. So I had this feeling, just sort of an intuitive sense that more needed to happen. And I took a chance with it and he wanted to do it. And so instead I said to him, gosh, on the one hand, I can tell you really want to smash these cars into each other. On the other hand, nothing in here is for breaking. I wonder if there is a way to do it without breaking them. And he wrestled with this for a while, and he began to create these inventions of armor to put on the cars made out of cardboard and popsicle sticks and tape. And he came up with something that actually worked and felt really great about it. And it was a lot of fun to do that. Now, I could have just set the limit and it would have been perfectly fine. I'm just saying the process of going through that and kind of wrestling with it and having me there as a support to be there with him as he's figuring this out, it ended up with a little more of a benefit. I think his self-confidence really grew that day. When you're with your child, I think there's a couple questions that you have to ask when you see them struggling. And the first one is it something they're trying to do that's developmentally appropriate or safe for them to do? If it's something that's not safe, if they're playing with something sharp or there's electricity involved or something, of course, go ahead and get involved. If it's something that's beyond their developmental level, if a 2-year-old wants to tie shoes, they're just not going to be able to do that. So they are going to need some help, or they're trying to reach something they just can't reach. Well, of course, I would want to help with that. But if it's something that's in their ability to do, then I might pause a little and try and see what's there. How could they wrestle with this enough and come up with something themselves? There's also the question, is help something that they want? And this is a little harder to answer sometimes because we often have the experience of asking kids, how can I help? Or what do you need right now? And often kids don't know the answer to that. They'll say, I don't know. I just need help. I don't know. And if it helps to think of this, think of yourself, if you were about to be in a car accident and you can see it coming and the other person in the car said, what do you need right now? How can I help you? You're just not going to be able to have an answer for that right then. You're just probably going to say, help. I don't know. I don't want this. For kids, when they're faced with intensity, it's just chaotic. That's all they know is just the feeling is big, and they don't know anything else. They don't have metacognition. They're not able to back up and think about their thinking very well or see their state of things. So sometimes we're not helpful when we're asking them, how can I help you right now? They just don't know. But really, there are a couple ways that things could go. So on the one hand, kids may just want to be seen and recognized for what they're trying to do. They may want to be affirmed. Hey, look at how you're cutting that. Boy, that's not easy to do, and you're really working hard at that. They may want some concrete steps. Hey, I notice you're doing it like this, and it's kind of hard. I can show you a way if you want that makes it a little easier. Sometimes kids don't want help at all. They're just overwhelmed, and they need your support or have things kind of organized for them in their experience so they can make sense of it and then move forward. There's a video that I made called Organizing Feelings. It'll help you sort through that a little better. And there's another one called The Goals of Behavior, Helplessness. And those two could help you decide the answer to that question. There'll be links in the description below for those. So once you've decided those two things, you'll know, should I help or should I back off and give a little room? So if you are backing off and giving a little room, I would be careful. If you can reflect what you see happening, that will give you a little bit more maybe information and them a little more information about what's going on. Gosh, I noticed when you squeeze the glue bottle, it's just not going the way you want. Nothing seems to be coming out. I wonder what's wrong here. Gosh, I noticed when you're pulling that tape out, it just keeps getting stuck together. That feels really frustrating when it doesn't work. So just labeling things and then reflecting it like that help kids to see it themselves. Because otherwise they're just in it. Like it's like falling off a cliff and you can't think straight, or being in that car wreck about to happen. You just can't think. So you're giving them some space to think. You also can use a technique I call on the one hand, on the other hand. So I might say, gosh, on the one hand, you really want to get a big piece of tape. On the other hand, it keeps sticking together whenever you get a big piece of tape. I wonder how you're going to figure this out. You'll hear me say the words, I wonder. That's a technique that I use to take the edge off of it being a direct question so that it doesn't make them have to think of what answer I need. I'm literally just wondering so they can have some room to wonder also. When I say that, it just sort of normalizes the experience. Yep, well, you want a long piece, but it keeps getting stuck. Wonder what you're going to do. And they'll start thinking of what they're going to do. And they may bounce that around with you. That helps normalize things for kids to know that they're not the only one having that experience. Other people do. And it doesn't just have to be practical, concrete things like that. It can be things that are emotional or conceptual. So maybe there's a kid who's real bossy and kids won't play with them because of how bossy they are. And you might reflect that back and say, boy, that feels bad when you want to be able to play with people, but then every time you're in charge, they seem to not want to play. That's confusing. Or I do on the one hand, on the other hand. And I might say, gosh, on the one hand, you really want to know what's going to be played. So you just take charge. But then when you do that, on the other hand, nobody wants to play with you. And that sure is hard and confusing. I wonder how you're going to figure that one out. Well, they probably won't know, but they may bounce it back and forth with you a little bit, and you've got the beginnings of a dialogue. You can be curious about their thoughts and how they're coming up with their thoughts. Entering into this process does so much for kids' self-esteem and their own self-awareness and being able to problem solve. So there's a lot of benefit to this. It is a little more work, but it really can have some added benefit. I hope that's helpful and not confusing. It does take practice. It's not our natural thing to do. We want to just jump in and help. But sometimes helping is not that helpful. Anyway, I wish you all the best with this, and I hope it goes well for you. Take care.